Hello, everyone. We will just give it just a couple of minutes to let everybody to make sure everyone is in, and then we'll kickstart the session. All right, so that seems about everybody who is in today. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today to discussing the UniSC Inside the Engineering trends and the study pathways. We're joined today by Tim and Dr. Adrian McCallum. Thank you so much for making the time this afternoon to join us. So just before we start, I would like to just do an acknowledgement of country. So the University of the Sunshine Coast acknowledges that this webinar and many participants are located on the lands of many custodians of Australia. We recognise their ongoing connection to the land and value their unique contribution to the university and wider Australian society. We pay our respects to Indigenous elders past, present and emerging and extend this respect to any Indigenous participants viewing this webinar today. So just a bit of housekeeping so everyone is aware. So the session is recorded. Everyone will be receiving the slides and the link to the recording afterwards, but tomorrow. Videos and microphones are muted for all attendees just to prevent disruption. But if you do have any questions, just pop it in the Q&A box, and we will be answering all those questions in the Q&A part of the session, which will be at the end. So just a bit of an agenda for today. So firstly, we will be meeting with Dr. Adrian and we'll be meeting with Tim, and then we'll be discussing the industry trends within the engineering parts of Australia, and then we'll discuss the online engineering programs within UniSC. Discuss the UniSC University as a whole, the journey with studying online and the key dates, and then how to apply for those programs. So we'll firstly be meeting with Dr. Adrian. Hi, Adrian.
Hi, Tarek. Look, thanks very much for giving up your time to coordinate this session, and welcome to my co-panelist, Tim. I can't see all our attendees out there, but look, thanks very much for giving up your time this afternoon to learn about our new master's programs at UniSC. I'm coming at this from the academic perspective. As this slide says, I'm the discipline lead for engineering at UniSC, so I try to keep the good ship engineering steering in the right direction and achieving what we want to achieve. And Tim is one of my colleagues who I'm very pleased to work with. Tim is an adjunct industry fellow at University of the Sunshine Coast, so he brings decades of industry experience and expertise to both our academic programs, pardon me, and our professional programs that we run alongside our teaching. So, Tarek, just briefly, I was in defence for 20 years. We'll talk about that a bit more shortly. My particular background is in civil engineering, but of course, in my discipline lead role, I keep an eye on all disciplines of engineering that we progress at UniSC, and I look forward to answering any of the questions that you have later on. So thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Nice to meet you, Tim.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Tarek, and thanks, Adrian, for the kind words as well, mate. The feeling's obviously very mutual. Adrian's had to put up with me for a long time, and he does very, very well at it. So I really enjoy working with the university from an industry perspective. So I'm an aeronautical engineer. I spent most of my career in the US and Europe working on big civil and military aircraft programs. And now run a not-for-profit manufacturing forum here on the Sunshine Coast, which is about trying to support more made in Australia, more sovereign capability. There's an awful lot of benefit that comes from really close connections between academia and industry. And it's something that Adrian and I in particular do an awful lot of work in that space together. And it's very successful, and long may it continue. So, yeah.
Thank you both. So now we'll be going through over the key industry trends within engineering at the moment. Adrian, what's going on in the defense industry at the moment?
Thanks, Tarek. Look, one of my roles at UniSC, aside from leading engineering, is to be what we call the Defence Collaboration Coordinator. So I think I mentioned briefly, I I served in defence for 20 years across the Air Force, Navy, and the Army, so I have a perspective across all of Australia's defence capability. My job as the collaboration coordinator for defence is to link academic researchers, particularly at UniSC, with industry folk like Tim and beyond to work out how we can all work together to best support Australia's sovereign defence capability. As we'd all understand, interest in defence and expenditure across defence forces globally is increasing for better or worse at the moment. What does that mean for engineers or prospective engineers? Well, it just means there's a lot more opportunities. And when you talk about what stream of engineering those opportunities are in, well, the answer is across all streams. You know, defence needs lots of assets, lots of platforms, which of course use mechanical engineering, aeronautical engineering, mechatronics, software engineering, electrical, electronic engineering. But of course, they also need infrastructure to support them. So civil engineers aren't left out in the need for defence expertise across the nation. So all I can say is there's billions and billions of dollars worth of defence expenditure that needs to occur in the next decade or more. So the opportunities across defence are massive. The only caveat I need to make, Tarek, is of course that not everyone necessarily will meet defence nationality requirements. So I'd love to suggest to all of you out there that you can work with defence tomorrow, but that may or may not be the case. So I just wanted to highlight that caveat depending where our students may come from. Tim, anything from you to add to what I've just said there on defence?
Yeah, it's really, really good points, mate. I think that the defense industry here on the Sunshine Coast is strong and growing, and there's a lot of businesses up here that would consider themselves really to be advanced technology businesses. So they'll be really the original equipment manufacturers of some pretty significant platforms. And as they grow, what they need as much as anything is a really strong talent pipeline. And that's really, I think, what these, in particular, the Masters in Mechanical Engineering is going to be significant as far as that's concerned. So, certainly a lot of really good industry opportunities here locally. And of course, this qualification is going to be respected more broadly than that. So, and as Adrian quite rightly mentioned, the defense industry internationally is growing. There's an awful lot of money being thrown at it. So there are, the hunt for talent is pretty real.
Thanks, Tim. Tarek, if I can just add to something Tim said there. So, ladies and gents, Tim mentioned the recognition of our degrees. So, I'll be clear about that right now. All of our master's degrees that we're offering from next year are what's called provisionally accredited by Engineers Australia. That means they're essentially fully accredited, but they can't make them fully accredited until we have graduates from those programs. That hasn't occurred yet, thus the provisional tag. So, yes, the degree you're getting here is recognised by Engineers Australia, and as Tim suggested, will be recognised globally across mechanical or whatever the discipline might be. So, thanks, Tim. Tarek, back to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and then we're moving on to the renewable energy now.
Okay, look, I'll kick off here again. Thanks, Tarek. So, of course, to everyone in the Zoom room, renewables is where it's at globally and nationally. Regardless of the side of politics, net zero or thereabouts is something that we as a nation are aspiring towards. It's just the timeline over which that might occur that might differ across political parties. So, renewables are here to stay. If you've travelled around Australia, you'll see the influx of solar, of wind, etc., and there's only going to be more and more of that. So that, of course, was the rationale for us establishing a master's in renewable energy because Australia just can't get enough renewable engineers. Renewable energy engineers. So again, Tim, I'll get your perspective on this very shortly, but our plan is to produce those engineers who industry needs. Every week my phone rings saying, have we got engineers who can work on this solar project or on this electrical upgrade? And my answer at the moment is no, because there's not enough of them out there. So of course, that's a primary driver for us offering this Masters in Renewable Energy. Tim, any thoughts, please?
No, mate, well said. I mean, again, I agree. Industry is really strong, and the need for talent is there, and it's a very diverse need as well. So whether or not it's in the design and manufacture of renewables equipment, or if it's in the management of significant solar, wind, hydro projects, yeah, and the demand is growing. Absolutely.
Thank you, Tarek. Back to you.
Thank you. And then, yeah, moving on to infrastructure. I think,
Okay.
Tim, that's your bread and butter, isn't it?
I'll take this one again,
Oh,
Tarek.
okay.
So, as a civil engineer, infrastructure, sometimes is my bread and butter. And again, attendees today, look around you. The skyline in Brisbane, Queensland, and beyond nationally continues to be, ablaze with cranes. We just can't build stuff fast enough to keep up with Australia's growing population. It's a problem nationally, for the nation, but it's a good thing for engineers. We are so short of civil engineers, structural engineers, geotechnical engineers, whoever contributes to infrastructure design and construction. The demand is massive, of course. Like other disciplines or avenues, in the tens of thousands, we are undermanned. Inadequate personnel to support the growth of infrastructure across the nation. So, particularly in southeast Queensland, of course, with the Olympics in 2032, there just aren't enough people to design, build roads, bridges, stadiums, railways, etc., etc. So, if infrastructure slash civil engineering is where you would like to subsequently work, then again, the world, or at least the nation, is certainly your oyster. There are so many opportunities across the infrastructure game at this time. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, agree, mate. I mean, I was going to mention the Olympics, the heavy rail, the airport upgrades, Barumba Hydro, which, it's hard to know exactly where that program's up to, and when it's going to kick off. But, as Adrian says, generally speaking, whether it's heavy infrastructure or it's just, residential developments or industrial developments, we just don't have enough supply of any of it. I don't know if anyone's been on the Bruce Highway recently, but it is not a whole lot of fun. So trying to make sure that we've got a better supply of the critical infrastructure that we need is extremely closely linked to the quality and the volume of talent that we have coming through. And that applies internationally as well. So if you have a propensity to travel, I mean, the Middle East is the amount of development that's going on over there is phenomenal. So it's a career that can take you all around the world if that's the kind of thing that you're looking for.
Thank you, Tim. Tarek.
Thank you. And yeah, moving on to manufacturing now.
Yeah, so speaking specifically about the Sunshine Coast, so there's about 1,500 manufacturing organizations just in the local government area here on the Sunshine Coast. They employ about 11,000 people. Manufacturing is the third largest sector in our area, after construction and then healthcare. It's bigger than tourism, which goes against the general rhetoric that's out there. Um, One of the challenges we have in manufacturing is really a challenge that's also very much a national challenge is productivity growth. And so what we need as much as anything is really skilled people that understand how to manufacture at scale efficiently and drive increases in productivity across the manufacturing sector. It's just an area that we need to be significantly more effective in, and that's where, things like understanding how to simulate production lines, understanding how to use robotics and cobotics and computer vision, in these kinds of environments is really important. The Masters in Mechanical is going to give you a good foundation that you can get started with those. And the university's got a really strong mechatronics department and those kind of things too. So there's lots of different opportunities to engage with this particular sector, and there's a big demand for it. Adrian.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Look, I can't add much more there, Tarek, other than, um, Tim runs a very successful organisation on the Sunshine Coast called the Manufacturing Excellence Forum. So we're very fortunate at UniSC that we have direct links via Tim and others to all of the manufacturers on the coast and through them beyond. So we're very much dialed in with manufacturing in southeast Queensland and beyond. And we're very fortunate that, as I said, we've got folk like Tim to ensure that students who come to us don't only learn the technical requirements through the degree, but they have immediate links to industry experts in their chosen field. So we're fortunate we have that collaborative relationship.
Thank you. And yeah, I believe finally is sustainability.
Okay, look, sustainability underpins almost everything we do at UniSC, or University of the Sunshine Coast. It's one of our key drivers. We need to obviously remain sustainable as an institution, but one of our key reasons for existing is to support the communities within which we operate. So we need to make sure that we sustain them, the businesses within those communities, the students, who exist within those communities, and the communities as a whole. So sustainability is key to everything we do. So any degree that you do at UniSC, you will be examining sustainability. And of course, for any engineering project these days, I had this discussion with school students last week. Although you might want to design something to be strong enough, to be cheap enough, and to do the job properly, etc., you also need to make sure that you consider the sustainability of that solution. Is it recyclable? Can we use something with less environmental impact, whatever it might be? So, across Australia, certainly across the state, we need to produce graduate engineers who have sustainability at the forefront of their mind when they come to solving engineering problems. So we wanted to put that out there just to make you all aware that whatever solutions you devise to the problems you're faced with at UniSC and beyond, then sustainability needs to be a key facet for you to consider in generating those solutions. Tim, any thoughts there?
Yeah, well said, mate. I think one of the things that we run across a number of different organizations in the work that we do, and I was having a discussion with really, I guess, the biggest retailer in the country just yesterday, and they're looking for more manufacturers to be part of their supply chain, but there are some pretty significant requirements around becoming a supplier. For this organization and other organizations that are at a similar kind of a size. Most of them have to do with helping them report on what's called Scope 3 for their sustainability targets. And Scope 3 is really looking at the sustainability of the people in their supply chain. So from that perspective, the suppliers need to meet some pretty rigorous standards around sustainability, and there's lots of different forms that takes, and it's relatively heavy. It's a field that is certainly growing very, very rapidly as law starts to mandate certain levels of sustainability in the supply chains of these large organizations. That's really how it's been driven through. And so having a background in the skill set then that relates to this is again going to be in significant demand and in Australia, but I think the Western world more broadly.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you, Tim. Tarek, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, just moving about the University of the Sunshine Coast, specifically within the engineering program suite. Tim, obviously you are one of the lead or are the lead lecturer in the engineering suite in general. So yeah, what can you tell us about it?
I believe that's you, Adrian.
Oh, Adrian, my
Yeah,
bad.
sorry, Tarek. So look, I'll give our audience a brief précis of Uni of the Sunshine Coast. So next year, I believe, is the 30th anniversary of the University of the Sunshine Coast. I think we've just hit or about to hit 20,000 students. So we are a rapidly growing aspirational university, as I said earlier, serving our communities in which we exist. Engineering at UniSC has been in existence for about 20 years. I've been here for about 15 of those 20 years, driving engineering in perhaps the last 5 of those years. So I've got a pretty good feel for how engineering has evolved. We started offering civil, then civil and mechanical, and in the last 5 years, civil, mechanical, mechatronic, and electronic engineering at our 2 campuses on the Sunshine Coast and at Moreton Bay. And of course, you're all here because of the launch of our new postgraduate programs next year, which are the Masters in Civil, in Mechanical, in Renewable Energy, and of course in Engineering Project Management. And we're offering those Masters because, as per the context of this whole discussion, there just aren't enough engineers in Australia to address workforce requirements. So our goal as a regional provider of educated and confident students and graduates is to try and ensure that we can assist with and contribute to that pipeline of professional engineers. So that's why we're offering these programs in engineering. I briefly touched on, and we've had the discussion on why we've chosen the themes or the disciplines that we are offering. What you can also see on these slides, and I've touched on some of this, is of course that the degree is nationally and internationally recognised. So that's a big tick for all of you, of course. It's the connected with industry and the contemporary design that I'll talk about very briefly. So as we said at the start, we're very fortunate to have experts like Tim with massive amounts of A, industry experience, and B, industry connections, working with us in developing these programs. And the programs, for better or worse, are under development right now, so we can't make them any more contemporary. We'll be finishing them up by about Christmas, to deliver to you in March next year. The reason why we're doing it now is because we want to be able to use the latest and greatest technology and learning techniques that we can then roll out via the classroom to you next year. And we're having ongoing discussions with industry. They're reviewing our programs as we speak to make sure that what we're delivering is relevant to them, so that you graduate and then you can get a job on the Sunshine Coast or beyond. And touching briefly on that, this is moving a bit beyond the slide, I'm sorry, Tarek, but last week it was announced that the university's graduates in engineering have the greatest employability across all engineering graduates across the country. And I said in a media release last week, that's because, yes, we produce technically competent graduates, but we also produce confident graduates, students with the confidence to understand what they're doing, believe in themselves, and get out there and take on the workforce. So, we're very fortunate that, again, through Fora that Tim runs, he gets to see our students, he gets to assist molding our students so that they've got the confidence plus the competency to be snapped up as professional engineers. So that's one selling point, I suppose, why we believe that our masters will become very attractive and will be a great pipeline to service industry needs across Southeast Queensland and beyond. Thank you. Any thoughts from Tarek and Tim?
Well said. I mean, you covered all the points. I do know it is a bit like the courses are being developed as we speak. So making sure everything is up to date with the industry, and up to the standards. Obviously, we do have the industry panel and advisory board, that we ask what kind of what are you looking for in terms of graduates and employees to hire, and we are molding the courses to meet those requirements. Cool. Moving on to the postgraduate engineering programs themselves. Obviously, those are the four main streams that we are working on. Obviously, civil engineering, mechanical, project management, and renewable energy. Adrian, anything to add onto here in terms of in terms of what do you see a student is to look for in general, and for example, for project management, any specific roles that they would be able to get out of?
Sure. Thanks, Tarek. Look, we've spoken broadly about civil, mechanical, renewable, the state of the industry, and the huge demand for engineers across those spaces. I'm talking briefly on project management. As you can see on the slide there, we've been working in conjunction with the Australian Institute of Project Management to ensure that our offerings in engineering project management are contemporary and are aligned with industry expectations. We are using project managers who are employed in the industry to help us develop the material. So again, the material is completely contemporary, completely as relevant, as current as it can be. I met with representatives from a project management company yesterday. They specialize in agile project management. So only yesterday I was modifying the course requirements to ensure that our students not only look at normal project management practices, but they also consider agile project management, which is typically used in software development, say, but increasingly is being rolled out across other aspects of project management. So I make that point, I suppose, to emphasize the contemporary relevance our degrees and the fact that they will be red hot off the press when students march into the classroom next year, and they will be well informed by both current and projected or future potential practice in project management. So our students are getting ahead of the game. And I don't want to go too much into our learning practice just yet, Tarek, but of course, these are master's level, of course, or some of them are, and master's level students. In those sort of classrooms, it's not for people like Tim or I to tell you what to think or what to learn. We'll be prodding you with questions, with theories, with potential case studies to get you to scratch your own heads, go out there, use whatever tools are appropriate to try and work out how you might solve these problems. Because we want you to finish these courses not only with some knowledge of the content, but more importantly with knowledge of the tools and the skills that you might need to solve problems like that or similar in the real workforce of tomorrow. So we're certainly planning that you will exit these degrees with the skills and also the networks, as we've discussed earlier, to ensure that you can get the job of your dreams upon graduation from UniSC. Tim, any thoughts? Thanks, mate.
Yeah, well said, mate. I think like on the topic of project management theory and agile project management, agile and waterfall typically exist at two ends of the spectrum. Agile is significantly more flexible. It's getting a lot more use across the board. Certainly, it's something that I use regularly, particularly if we're doing a product development type of a project for somebody. And we've got a number of those, almost a dozen, probably on the go at the moment. Um, but then obviously waterfall has its uses as well. And so getting the grounding in those and understanding the foundation of it is really important. And having then the opportunity to go and use it in practice is important too. And in a lot of cases, with this course being as contemporary as it is, you'll be able to help industry to get up to speed with the current thinking around it, which is really important. That's it from me.
Thank you. Thanks, Tarek.
Oh, sorry, was unmuted. Was muted. Now we're just moving on to the actual programs, right? So obviously we do have the graduate certificate as well as the masters in all renewable energy project management, civil, mechanical as well as project management. Now the grad cert, it's 4 total courses. Obviously, if it is done part-time, you can do it part-time or full-time, and it goes for 8 to 12 months. And then, yeah, with the master's degree, it's 8 total courses. Now, the entry requirements for both would be a 4 years bachelor's degrees in engineering in a cognate or related stream. So it doesn't have to be specifically, for example, if you're looking to do civil engineering, it doesn't need to be specifically within a civil engineering stream. So there are different streams that you can be doing, for example, like environmental engineering or construction engineering. You would still be eligible with that. There's currently for Australian citizens and permanent residents, there is the Commonwealth Supported Places, which is a great opportunity to, take advantage of that and to reduce your student fees. So with the grad certificate, obviously it's down from 16,000 down to 4,600. A huge reduction, as well as, going from 40,000 from the master's degree down to 11. So it's not usual to have those CSBs, and they are limited. So it's it is up for grabs, and it's a huge opportunity. Anything to add, Adrian, about the postgrads?
My only addition there, Tarek, is as I understand it, if any overseas students have a 3-year bachelor's degree, which some countries conduct in engineering, then that can also be considered for entry to the master's program. So it depends on where you've obtained the qualification. Certainly in Australia, the 4-year degree is the standard, but we acknowledge that other countries that may not be the standard, they might have different lengths of engineering programs. So there's a whole matrix which I've got in front of me, which determines how eligible folk are depending on the work they've done. So my comment, I suppose, is if you are interested in the programs and you've done some prior study, then of course please go via the appropriate pathways, and our student services team can certainly assist in checking the validity, the alignment of your previous studies to try and get you the best leg up into these programs.
For
Thank
sure.
you.
Thank you. Yeah, the master's degree, if you don't have a 4-year bachelor's with honors, it would be the 2-year master. Whereas if you did do the 4-year bachelor with honors, it would just be 1 year. That's the full-time duration, obviously the part-time equivalent for those. Now, in terms of the studying online, it is that the study journey is, there will be asynchronous learning material. So that means if, you don't have to be online at a specific time to study, all the learning material will be available to you in the student portal, which is Canvas, because we understand everybody has different schedules. So as long as you're able to do the learning contents weekly, that's great. You'll have access to teachers, mentors, and support services. So you'll have student services that will be available to point you in the right direction and plan out your studies for the whole year. You just get in contact, and there will be your first point of contact for that. Obviously, with the academics, the lecturers, you'll be able to get in contact through Canvas if you do have any questions or need some mentoring. There is 24/7 tech support as well, in terms if you are having any issues with the systems or any software, we'll be able to assist you. Yeah, as I mentioned, study when it's best for you. Obviously, some people doing night shifts, some people doing only studying at night. There will be live sessions as well, but if you can't attend them, you can watch the backup material for it. It is recommended to attend it though. So yeah, we do our best to make sure it is after hours, so you can attend that after work. And the practical authentic assessments. So obviously, as Adrian mentioned, we do get the advisory board. People similar to Tim will be able to support you with any, we get their support to build the most authentic and practical assessments that are up to date with the industry standards to make sure you are, job ready as you graduate. And yeah, the one-on-one support, both with the academic and with the student services, will all be able to support you in your study journey. Adrian, anything else to add in terms of the study journey or studying online?
Yeah, thanks, Tarek. Look, you covered that all very nicely. Just a comment, actually. I had a student in my classroom yesterday who used to study at a different university in southeast Queensland. And one of the first things he said was, at the old institution, I would never have had the chance to have spoken directly with, the head of engineering like this. And I said, well, that's what makes UniSC different. We make time for you so that we can have that discussion about where you want to take your career, and we help you achieve that. So, again, that's one of our primary selling points. Why, folk in industry like our students, because we provide them with almost bespoke support, and we give them the confidence to then excel in their degree and in their career. As you said, ideally our online lectures and seminars, etc., will be programmed so that if you are working full time, you can make that after your full-time work. And again, we're still preparing the practical authentic assessments as we speak, but we're doing exactly that. We're making sure that we just don't come up with a theoretical project which you'll never grapple with in real life. We're actually taking real projects from industry, giving them to our students so they have a real case study that they can get their teeth into, which benefits their learning, but also benefits their career prospects. Because for their first job interview, they can say, well, I didn't solve a theoretical problem, I solved a real problem. And you can see, where that construction is occurring at the moment. So yes, practical authentic assessments are key to delivering our students both the content and the skills necessary for them to be very attractive to subsequent employers. Thanks, Tarek.
Well said. Thanks, Adrian. Now, moving on to the studying online. As we said, it's developed for busy people. You can be done part-time. We don't expect it to be full-time. The majority of our students are doing it part-time. So about 15 to 20 hours a week of study. That's what's recommended. As Adrian said, it's the same access to teachers, mentors, and support services that are on campus. So there's a lot of worry for students who are thinking online is different to study on campus, and it's the university thinks it as a second tier. It's not as much support. That's you're getting the same support as an on-campus student. There's a peer and faculty members are accessible by phone as well, or live chat or emails. And there's also the discussion boards that are available for you on the campus student portal. And that drives a lot of engagement between peers and the networking opportunity that you have with a lot of people working within industry. Obviously, we do recommend that. That's where you get the most out of the studies, really. We do have obviously my team and the student support team, the student enrollment advisors, and the student support coordinators will be able to help you with the application, with applying for HECS, for example, what technology that you'll need, and then pointing you in the right direction, with study plans if you wanted to take leave of absence or anything. We're all here to support you, so you're not left in the dark. So in terms of the upcoming trimesters, so the program will be first launching in trimester 1, 2026. So that starts on the 2nd of March, and you'll see here the orientation. So orientation is when you'll get access to all the learning material a week in advance. So you'll be able to kind of familiarize yourself with the platform, what to, when the assessments are, and you'll have all 12 weeks of content from there, so you can familiarize yourself with everything. So we do have the mid-trimester breaks as well, just so you can have a look at that. This is where the intensives will be run. So there are some subjects will have an intensive requirement, and that is 3 days on campus obligation, and to work face to face, and we'll be discussing that in the Q&A part as well. Perfect. Now we'll just move on to the Q&A part now. We do see a few questions coming in. So yeah, pop all your questions through. We'll go through. We'll make sure to go through everything. So we do have a couple of questions from the start of the session here, in terms of the provisional accreditation, and asking if to distinguish between the full accreditation or provisional accreditation. Adrian, you did mention it is the provisional accreditation means just once, because we don't have graduating cohorts yet, once we have the first graduates, this will be the full accreditation. So the first graduates will still get the full accreditation, the year accreditation for that.
Yeah, that's right, Tarek. Look, it's impossible for Engineers Australia to validate the efficacy of a course, until they've interviewed graduates to say, how did your course go? Did you learn X, Y, and Z? And have you got, good career prospects, etc. So that's why it is a provisional status. Other than us graduating students, we have, equivalent to a full accreditation. It's just that they can't give us the full accreditation stamp until graduates walk out the door and they've had a chance to speak to them. So subsequently, of course, yes, it will be fully accredited, consistent with any other masters in engineering across Australia. Yeah.
Thanks, Adrian. Another question here is asking, the course page says that students are required to accumulate at least 60 days of suitable engineering practical experience during the program. And the question is this accumulated through site visits or professional placements? And if it's placements, does the university have any structure to aid students in securing those?
If I can jump in, Tarek, look,
Sure.
traditionally this is instigated by the students, and that's because it makes sense for them to A, choose what work they'd like to do, and B, to start establishing relationships in the sort of industry they would like to do. So this is why students say in our longer term degrees from first year, I encourage them to start attending events with Engineers Australia, with the Manufacturing Excellence Forum, whatever it might be, because as we all know, the key to getting the job you want is through relationships. So I would encourage all of our students, whether you're online or whether you are face-to-face, to start establishing relationships via social networks like LinkedIn, or face-to-face events with Engineers Australia or the Manufacturing Excellence Forum, whatever it might be. And it's through those conversations that hopefully you can help tee up the work experience or the internship that you need to address the 60-day requirement. If students fail to do that, then of course I regularly step in and assist them. That's not ideal because I'm coming in cold. I don't know the student or necessarily what they want to achieve. So ideally this is student-led practice. But of course, through Tim, through many others, we have immense links with industry, and I'm very happy to pick up the phone or send emails to try and help students get the work that they would like to do. So again, as I mentioned earlier, because of the relatively low staff to student ratio, or student to staff ratio at UniSC, I have more of my time to help students individually get the work they want. So I would say to everyone online, if you're getting to the point where you need to accumulate that work experience and you haven't done anything about it, then talk to me sooner rather than later, and I can put you in touch with the right fora or the right people to help you get that work. So again, we will do what we can as often as we can to try and help you get that work in a timely manner. Tim, any thoughts?
If I can contribute there as well, it's really Adrian's point about taking ownership of that process as early as possible is really, really important. There are a lot of ways that, through the university, you can get good access to that. Certainly from a Manufacturing Excellence Forum perspective, we really love making those types of connections. Students of UniSC are always welcome along to our events and all those kinds of things where, it is predominantly industry that's there, and all kinds of different industry too. Everyone from engineering consultancy firms through to obviously a significant number of manufacturers, and then other support industries around that too, through a whole bunch of different sectors, whether it's renewables or transportation or defense or whatever it is. But obviously that network is quite Sunshine Coast specific. It's going to benefit people that are physically up here more than most. But very very keen to try to support those connections. And if you're not living here already, maybe you could even move up for a job. That'd be ideal.
Thank you both. We do have the question here coming in. If the programs are designed based only on the Australian market, especially on the Sunshine Coast, or are they also taking international market into consideration, Adrian?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And look, they are designed predominantly with advice from local experts who, of course, will present some bias because this is where they live and work. So these are the institutions, the industries within which they live and work. But they're not specifically targeted, of course, to the local area. Your case studies may be, but again, I go to lengths with our co-developers to ensure that there is the potential for students to, yes, choose a local case study that is presented to them, or of course, choose a case study that is of greater interest to them in their local area from which they can get greater benefit. So in most courses that I've had the opportunity to contribute to the development of, we are cognizant of the need to make sure that the bias is not completely towards Sunshine Coast and Australia, but international students, say, of course, do have the opportunity to, at least in some assessments or part of the work that they're required to do throughout the degrees, to choose a locally pertinent problem, so that can be the mechanism, the catalyst for them to engage with that firm or company or industry or sector area, whatever it might be, start establishing networks in there and build those relationships. So again, building relationships in an area and a geographical space that is pertinent to you is key, and we are supportive of you doing that to facilitate your progress through this degree. Thank you.
Thanks, Adrian. We have a question coming in here. I have a 4-year overseas degree, which they don't know if it's an honors or not due to the difference in overseas educational system. But how can this be considered? Also, if my degree is in civil, but I would like to do mechanical engineering, they've been working in with mechanical field for years. Is it possible for them to apply even though the past isn't not in cognate? Look, you can get in contact with us. We'll be able to, discuss with, with you the study options. And yeah, if you don't have you wanted to move into mechanical and you have a civil background, you would be going into the 192 point master degree, not the cognate. Is that correct, Adrian?
Yeah, look, I've closed the spreadsheet down in front of me. Sorry, Tarek, but
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
again, I would suggest apply through the formal channels, and the student services team can use those spreadsheets, etc., to assess your suitability. What I would say, and I've said this regularly to students, is you just need to also think, and Tim might have a comment on this, you also just need to think about your career trajectory and history, how that looks to potential employers. If you've got decades worth of experience in X type of engineering, and then all of a sudden you want work in Y engineering, they're quite within their rights to say, well, why would we employ you in this field when all of your experience is that field? So I would just suggest you need to think carefully about the thread that continues throughout your studies. If that thread is severed and there's a dislocation there for some reason, it may be what you want to do, but it may not be as palatable to future employers as if you've got a consistent track record in a particular area, whatever it might be. Tim, any thoughts?
Yeah, agree, mate. I think that the main thing that an employer will be looking at is if you're trying to make some kind of a switch, you'd probably be taking some kind of a pay cut. Because if you're at a particular seniority level in a particular discipline, then they're going to be happy to pay you at that. But if your specialty is not what you're being employed for, obviously you still have your foundation skill set, which is going to be broadly applicable, but you won't have all of that contextual knowledge that's built up over years of experience. And most employers aren't going to be willing to go and pay you for a competency level over here for you to then go and learn in an area over there, which may or may not be adjacent. So I think it's just a matter of managing your expectations around that. There are a lot of people that I've either worked with or employed myself over the years. Like there was a case recently where there was someone that had a qualification and about 10 years experience in aircraft maintenance engineering, and then went and got a mechanical engineering degree at UniSC, and I employed them as a graduate engineer, and they got a graduate engineering salary because they weren't doing aircraft maintenance engineering work. That background that they had in aircraft maintenance engineering was super valuable, and they got a little bit of a pay bump inbound because of that, but it was a pay bump on top of a graduate mechanical engineering salary because that's the job that I was employing them for. So I think it's just a matter of, making sure that your expectations are managed around that if you are looking to make a switch and it's not something that you necessarily have a lot of experience in. But aligning what you're doing with your passion is totally worthwhile, by the way. I'd still support you in doing that, whatever that switch is.
For sure. And yeah, we always do obviously recommend doing research first before jumping into a degree, researching the jobs that you would be getting into, the industry itself, if that aligns with what you're looking for. And yeah, if it is something that you are 100% certain of, we'll be happy to support you. And yeah, you get what you get out what you put in, really. If you are expecting that and apply yourself with the knowledge that you have learned, obviously you'll be successful. But yeah, it obviously it's still a difficult degree, and changing careers is not easy. So just as long as you do that and you put in the hours, you put in the work, you'll be all good. Now, a question about AI, which is the big bad wolf everybody is worried about in terms of new degrees. So, how heavy is AI learning embedded in those subjects? As AI is the trend in the industry at the moment.
Yeah, good question. Look, I'm probably not across this as much as I should be, Tarek, but the latest word on the street is that AI is a tool, and it would be remiss of us to suggest otherwise. So, like a calculator, like a computer, we are encouraging you to use AI in your solving of problems within any of your courses. But for everyone's benefit, of course, we are increasingly altering our assessment so that you can't just cut and paste that question, put it in AI, press generate, and cut and paste it back in your solution, because no one's learning from that process except the AI. So the point of us offering you these programs, as I said, is yes, to learn some content, but more to learn some skills. So if you're just clicking AI buttons, then you're not learning any skills. So increasingly, our assessment is for you to perhaps reflect upon how you did a process, or to examine from your perspective why you chose that decision, or made that decision, or made that choice. So you will see through the master's programs, not all assessment, but most assessment is now being modified to not be scared of AI, to acknowledge AI as a tool that all future engineers should be using to increase our efficiency. So if we're not using it, well, that's silly. But there are still assessments that we need to meet to make sure that you meet the standards as required by Engineers Australia, etc. So we are therefore modifying those assessments to make sure that you have to invest of yourself in that solution generation, not just by using AI, etc. Tim, any thoughts?
Yeah, and that's a good reflection of how industry is approaching it as well. I mean, even there are legal specific AIs and health specific AIs that lawyers and doctors and those types of people are using. There aren't any engineering specific AIs that I know of. I use AI fairly generously through the work that I do, but I just have to be so careful with it because often the answers it gives me are total rubbish. And I use it in a fairly specific manner. I give it a lot of different contexts. I set up projects and lots of background info and things like that. So I think it's just a matter of being very conscious as you're using it. If you're using it blindly, it's going to go extremely poorly. If you're using it consciously and you're reviewing what it's giving you extremely closely, especially when it comes to, like, I wouldn't recommend using it for calculations of any kind, even basic stuff. It can get extremely wrong. So if you're not sanity checking it, if you're not going and doing it yourself as a point of validation, then it's problematic. If you're using it as a starting point or to generate some ideas or to break down, help you to break down problems, that's generally a good way to use it. So Yeah, I can't speak to what the academic requirements are, but in terms of, what Adrian's reflected on in terms of the university's approach, that pretty closely reflects what is a good approach in industry as well.
Agreed. Yeah. And it's, in terms of a postgraduate level of study, as you mentioned, Adrian, we teach you how to approach a problem and get out there and use the tools to help you, solve that problem, rather than just, use it, you put it into ChatGPT or something and then get the solution out of it. It's more so how to approach a problem for it. Perfect. And there's questions on the opportunities on to working on real world engineering design projects.
Yeah. Do you want me to jump into that?
Yeah, please, Adrian.
So look, in all our engineering programs, or including the undergraduate and the postgraduate, there is a requirement for a research or design project. And I say to all our students, this is your chance to differentiate or distinguish yourself from your peers. This is where you get to choose a problem of your liking in a field of interest, perhaps with in work experience or professional practice. It's best that I don't choose that for you. You should be establishing your networks and already working out where you want to go and who you need to meet with to make that happen. So if you can choose a project that sets you up for your future work, then we're very supportive in putting you in touch with the right people and providing industry support to enable that to happen. Yeah.
Thanks, Adrian.
If I can jump in there as well, I mean,
Sure.
certainly, there's a lot of businesses that would love to have design projects, capstone projects, master's projects focused on a particular area of their business that they're struggling with. And really the ultimate aim of that wouldn't be just to deliver them an artifact which helps to push their business forward, but it would ideally end up in a job as well at the end of it. I mean, they get to know you in that process and you get to know how you work. And that's something where certainly from our perspective, we've done a bit of that. We also, and Adrian's been involved with this since day one. We run a student team up here, which is to develop an autonomous air taxi. And there are a lot of design thesis capstone projects that can be spawned out of that through that team. That can also involve one of the industry partners that it's engaged with that team. And there's probably about 12, and they do anything from aeronautical engineering and aircraft certification through to composites design and manufacture, aluminium design and manufacture, and CNC machining, electronics, computer vision, robotics. I mean, I see a question here about computer vision and AI and stuff like that too. At the Innovation Center or Collider at University of the Sunshine Coast, we'll have a couple of laboratories there soon that'll have a range of cobot arms, automated conveyor systems, computer vision systems. And the idea is for the community, industry, the tenants out there at Collider and students to be able to, do research, test and trial things. In an ideal world, the students would work with industry to do those test and trials, and that would end up in jobs and paid positions. So lots of really good, interesting stuff in that space.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Tim. We have a question from Anna here, saying their degree is not directly recognized in the Washington Accord. What's the best approach to get it approved? If it's contacting USC or Engineers Australia, look, you can contact my team and, we can discuss options in terms of previous studies. We always do recommend, submitting an application anyway, and get it assessed by the admissions team. The admissions team will be able to look into that for you. And yeah, if you wanted to contact Engineers Australia as well. But yeah, I would suggest just get in contact with us and then we'll be able to work something out with you. Perfect. Another one, how will the on-campus intensives work if the person doesn't live in Australia? And what will happen if they don't make the intensives just due to work? Look, the intensives dates are already available and we'll be able to, give you those days for trimester 1 is from the 7th to the 10th of April, for example. So it's, that gives you quite a lot of time to ensure that to have some notice. But if you can't make it trimester 2, the subject will be running there as well. So that will be in October, and we'll be able to help you plan that out. But Adrian, can you tell us a little bit more about like those 3 days? How will it run? What will be involved in that? I think Adrian dropped out. Um, yeah. So essentially with the intensives. Oh, sorry, Adrian, you there?
Yeah, have you got me, Tarek?
Yeah, I got you now. I was just
Yeah,
saying, yeah, go
sorry,
on.
we're in discussion with timetabling at the moment to clump those intensives together because for both the academic staff, the laboratory staff, and of course our students, having them as densely together as possible is benefits everyone so that students don't need to spend any more time than necessary either in country, on campus, whatever it might be. So the plan is that students would turn up, then they might spend a day, Tuesday, covering labs for one subject or course in the morning, then labs for the other course in the afternoon. They'd address the other labs on the Wednesday, perhaps a few more on the Thursday, and then they're free to go. So we're deliberately, of course, making them, they are called intensives for a reason. You'll be intensively doing your hands-on practical laboratories at that time, and then you'll be free to go after that dedicated dense period of time.
Perfect. Thanks, Adrian. I'm aware of the time, so we'll just do a quick fire round of those questions here. Yeah, so what's if someone doesn't have the Sydney Accord bachelor degree, does it meet the requirement for the Master of Engineering degree? Yeah, as we said, if it's a 3-year bachelor's degree, you'll be going into the non-cognate one, which is the 2-year full-time one. So we'll be, and again, you can get in contact with us to, get it sorted. And yeah, there's a question here about the process for
Tarek,
this.
sorry to interrupt, buddy, but I've got a 1 o'clock I need to jump onto if that's
No
okay.
worries. Thank you so much, Tim. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for
And
having me.
yeah, we'll continue with the rest of the questions. But thanks so much, Tim.
Awesome. Thanks so much, team. I'll see you soon.
See you soon. Bye. Perfect. Yeah, so a couple of questions here, just in terms of the AI skills, adding AI skills to the course itself. So what would you say, Adrian, in terms of, machine learning, computer vision skills are taught in the programs?
Yeah, so this will probably be covered in, again, I don't have it in front of me, but N21 Foundations of Engineering, which is a course that all postgraduate students will cover because it's meant to set the context for professional engineering in Australia. So it's not a content or a skills heavy course, but it's really about exposing students to the way engineering is done in Australia. And that is the course where ethical considerations, sustainability considerations, and the use of AI, etc., will be examined, as we've already briefly discussed, to ensure that students understand its use within the university and also with industry, and exposing them to, AI, ML tools that they might then subsequently use throughout their degree and in their career.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adrian. We do have a question here in terms of the benefits of doing the grad cert or the master degree if a student has an engineering degree already and working in the field. Look, the graduate certificate obviously covers the advanced core subjects within the engineering field, the respective field, whether it's civil or project management, for example. The master degree, and correct me if I'm wrong, Adrian, it's mostly focusing on those projects that you'll be doing in the end, the master's project that you'll be studying. So you'll be applying those skills that you've learnt into those projects.
Yeah, look, this comes down to career differentiation to some extent, ascertaining what qualifications might be typical within the job that you're seeking to obtain. So, um, the best advice I can probably offer is to engage with someone like Engineers Australia, or even their website will probably have pathways, or dare I say it, even AI could generate the sort of pathways that might be possible. And I think we've just put this on our website, or it will shortly be there, the pathways you can pursue with a grad cert, a grad dip, or the master's programs. There will be differences, and if Tim was here, I'm sure he'd say there will be differences in employer expectations and pay, etc., as well, depending on the level of your skills. But the word we're hearing from industry is that they don't necessarily need everyone to have a master's degree. So it's probable that there will be employment depending on which postgraduate qualification you seek to pursue. But I can't give an industry perspective on that from within the university at this time. I would certainly suggest that you um, speak to people within that industry, or as I said, more broadly, look at what EA suggests with regards to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We do have a question here. I believe it's a follow-up from the 60-day work experience part. Um, is the 60 days work experience part of the advanced engineering project subjects, or is it something on top of it, Adrian?
So it's on top of it. You need to do your project that hones your research skills in a particular area that's of relevance to you, and hopefully also increases your industry connections. And then the 60-day work experience is a requirement so that you understand how engineers work within industry, within Australia. And as Tim mentioned, that 60-day internship or work experience or professional practice, there are numerous terms for it, should be ideally the springboard for you to then obtain permanent work with that company. So many of our undergraduate students, for example, do their 60 days with the company. The company are impressed with our students. They take them on as a graduate engineer and then away they go. So this is why, as early as you can in the piece, it's worth thinking about who you might like to work with, because ultimately, if you work well for them over that internship period, then they may well seek to keep you on full time. So you should not aim to just get 60 days with anyone. You should think carefully about where you want your career to be in 5 or 10 years, and then strategically think about who you might best seek to get work with over that period to enable that to happen. And as I've said numerous times, because we have relatively low student numbers generally compared to many other massive universities, we can offer a more bespoke service to assist you in establishing those relationships with those firms with whom you'd like to complete your 60 days and hopefully subsequently pursue a career with. Thank
Perfect.
you.
Thanks, Adrian. We have a couple of questions here in terms of the programs themselves and the CSPs. So 100% someone can apply for the graduate certificate, complete that, and then move on to the master's degree and get those credits from the grad cert. Those degrees are nested within each other, so the graduate certificate subjects and courses are included in them. They are part of the master degree anyway. And in terms of securing the CSP position, so it is first in, first serve. Obviously, Australian citizens and permanent residents are eligible for those. So just applying, and there are places available at the moment. So you'll be able to get a CSP as if you're successful in getting into the program. And in terms of so there's a question here if there's a chance to reschedule the intensives if they can't meet the arranged date. Look, it will need to be either the intensive in trimester 1 or trimester 2. So it either will be in April or October. That's correct, Adrian, right?
Yeah, that's correct at the moment, correct. But we, of course, want to efficiently utilize all of our resources at UniSC, and we are moving to a trimester model from next year. So, although at the moment we have not scheduled courses and thus intensive labs for trimester 3, it may be that in the future some courses will also be in trimester 3. So, of course, we're doing this to provide as much flexibility as we can so the students can progress through the degree at their own pace. So if they can't make or complete a course in first semester and meet the intensives, it may be that they could complete that course in trimester 2 at the moment, or potentially trimester 3 down the track. We just haven't quite planned that yet, so we can't tell you right now exactly what courses might be offered in trimester 3 in years to come.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Adrian. And yeah, just the final question here from Henry. They have an automotive mechanical engineering certificate, and if they qualify with the master degree in engineering, look, you'd need a bachelor in engineering. So if your degree is a bachelor in mechanical engineering, for example, yeah, definitely get in contact with us. We'll be able to help you, find out the specific program that you'd be qualified in. Yeah, because there's different requirements for different degrees. So yeah, get in contact with us, and yeah, you will be able to see those our number here and the email. Just send us through your inquiry and ask your question, and then yeah, we'll be happy to help you with everything. Now, in terms of applying, the link will be in the slide deck that we'll be sending in the next couple of days. So if you can just create an account, submit your details and your previous study claims as well as your documentation, and yeah, we'll be assessing that for you. But if you do have any questions, again, just get in contact with us through the number on the screen here, and we'll be able to assist you. Adrian, thank you so much for your time today with us. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we conclude the session today?
No, thanks, Tarek. Look, I just wanted to thank all the attendees for giving up their time to listen to what we had to say. And of course, I encourage them, if it suits their circumstances, to apply. And we look forward to welcoming them to our classrooms in the months to come. So thanks again for everyone turning up today.
Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks so much, Adrian, for your time. And yeah, I hope everyone has enjoyed the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thanks, Tarek. Thanks all.